despite Liberals not holding many seats across the prairies, they are holding their retreat in Edmonton before Parliament resumes. Also, the Prime Minister made an announcement about ways that he will try to boost the economy. So here to chat about all of it is political commentator Brian Lilley of the Toronto Sun. Brian, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, great to have you as always. So, Brian, Prime Minister Mark Carney and his Liberal caucus, they're going to be in Edmonton for a retreat.
Yep.
And while there, he's going to be meeting with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. And Brian, you just recently spoke with Smith, actually over the weekend. So what's on her agenda?
She's looking to try and find out, okay, you've talked about these major projects, you've set up the major projects office, you're talking about pipelines. What are you actually going to deliver? I think that is going to be her main focus. It is going to be what she tries to determine, and rightly so. Like, look, Mark Carney is saying a lot of the right things, but is he delivering yet? Well, not quite. It's not as if he is failing. It's just that he's talking more than he is delivering. And so at a certain point, you've got to stop with the talk and get with the walk. And so I think that's what she's looking for as she heads into this meeting with him on Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday afternoon.
Okay, now interesting. So the Libs don't have many seats across the prairies, but they don't obviously draw a lot of support here in Alberta. So why are they holding their retreat in Edmonton?
Because they don't have a lot of seats in the prairies. I mean, that's exactly why. So if you count just the prairie provinces, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, there's 65 seats. And of those, the Liberals hold just 9. 9, that's it. They hold 20 seats in British Columbia out of, I believe, 43. So not quite half, but they have a good representation in British Columbia. But across the prairie provinces, it's 9 of 65. They've got 6 in Manitoba. They've got 2 in Alberta. They've got 1 in Saskatchewan. They're not doing well. And so I think this is an attempt to say, look, we hear you. We want to work with you. We are concerned about your issues. So there's a bit of politics in there, but also a bit of let's actually deal with one of the economic engines of the country that has not been getting a lot of love of late. So, is some of it political? Absolutely. Is some of it, warranted? Absolutely. So I don't think that, I think that both things can be true at the same time, and they are, trying to make good with the people of Alberta.
Well, speaking about the prairie provinces, Carney's been talking about a new port in Churchill, Manitoba, possibly for exporting oil or LNG. So what did Premier Smith tell you about that idea?
Well, it was interesting because Mark Carney's been talking a lot about this, and some people in various industry groups are saying, no, this won't work. I don't know why you're talking about this so much. And then Premier Smith said, well, Churchill is a major tourism destination, so maybe there is not the right spot. But she said there's a place with a deep water port just south of Churchill that could be good, that would not interrupt the tourism in Churchill. I've got an old friend who does nature photography and takes groups up to places like Churchill, and it is a massive tourism destination. So yeah, you don't want to mess with that. But yeah, maybe we go a little bit further south. But she also talked about the fact that if we want to do this, we need to invest in other infrastructure. You can't just say, okay, we're going to open up a port. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. Well, no, you have to have the roads. You have to have the rail lines. You have to have the pipelines. You need icebreakers, which we don't have in any, not in the numbers that we need for this sort of thing. So if you want it to be more than a 5 to 6 month a year port, you've got to invest in infrastructure, rail, roads, icebreakers. That's what needs to be done. That's what she was talking to me about.
All right. Brian, last Friday, Mark Carney made an announcement about ways that he'll try to boost the economy. And you gave the announcement a passing grade, but not quite an A plus. So what did you like and what did you not like?
Look, there's some good things, including support for canola producers who are hurting due to the tariffs imposed by China in retaliation for our tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Look, I think a lot of people will say that the easy thing to do would be to take the tariffs off the Chinese electric vehicles and just let these cheap Chinese cars into our economy. That would be a horrible idea. Why? Because these cars are built for about $25,000 US per vehicle. And they're trying to sell them to us for about $12,500 per vehicle US. So they're selling them at half price. Why? Because they want to overtake the North American market. They want to dominate. They want to flood the market with cheap Chinese vehicles. And that would decimate the auto industry. Now, folks out west may not care about the auto industry, but what is the alternative? If we get rid of that, if we lose that, that is a major economic driver in this country. Canola is also a major economic driver in this country, but the exports to China are only about $5 billion a year. Canola is much, much bigger than that, way bigger than that. And China is a bad actor on this front. Between 2020 and 2022, they blocked all canola exports from Canada into China. In 2017, they did a combination of tariffs and non-tariff barriers to Canadian canola. 2013-14, they were also blocking this. Like, these guys are not good partners. This should not be the focus. We need to find better partners in South Korea, in Japan, in the United States, across South America. We need to figure that out, because anytime that Canada does something that will annoy China, they will block canola. That is their go-to. And so I don't think that, just trying to say, let's placate the Chinese, that'll make things better. I don't think that's going to work.
Brian, there's a push by the Conservatives against the temporary foreign worker program. They say it needs to go. The government disagrees. What's the issue with this program?
So this is a program that's been around for a long time, and it's always controversial, and whoever is in opposition takes focus on this issue. When the Harper Conservatives were in, the Trudeau Liberals attacked the program. They said, oh, you're favoring foreign workers over Canadians. How horrible. You should stop this. Well, the fact is the Harper Conservatives actually put in some guardrails into this program. If unemployment was above 6%, you couldn't get a labor market impact assessment to say, yes, you can hire a temporary foreign worker. You had to have less than 10% of your employees be from the temporary foreign worker program. The Liberals got rid of all of these guardrails in April of 2022. As we're coming out of the pandemic and employers were saying, we need workers, we can't find them, Canadians won't come and work, they got rid of these guardrails, these various rules around the program. Well, that has led to a whole host of problems. In Alberta, the youth unemployment rate, I believe, is about 17%. It was 20%. And then when the job stats numbers came out on Friday, it dropped to 17%. Not because more youth had found jobs, but because more youth stopped looking for work. They just said, all right, I'm done. I'm out. Same thing in Ontario. It's about 15% here in Ontario. Same reason. People are not looking for work anymore. So we've got a huge youth unemployment program. We've got high unemployment for the country as a whole. And the Carney government says, no, we're going to protect this program. Mark Carney said that it's the second biggest issue that he hears about from businesses after tariffs is we need access to foreign workers. Well, maybe you need to start paying people better. And that's what the Liberals used to say when the Conservatives were in power. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And we need to take a look at this program. I don't think it needs to go. Pierre Poilievre said, scrap it completely. No, I don't think we need to do that, but we do need to actually adjust the program and make it work for Canadians as well as foreign workers.
Brian, a couple of high-profile home invasions have sparked a debate about self-defense in Canada and the idea that we need to bring in a castle law. But you say that we don't need to do that. Why?
Because castle law already exists in Canada. I mean, it's remarkable that people think it doesn't. On both the left and the right, folks think that this does not exist. But you can go back to a ruling, and I pointed this out in a column in the Toronto Sun, a ruling from 1604 from Sir Edward Coke, who was then Attorney General for England, who said that, yes, if people show up trying to do you harm and you or your servants kill them as they're trying to rob you or murder you, there's no charge. Well, that has been part of Canadian law ever since. We take our common law from the British system. And the idea that we need to, invoke some new law, it is just foreign to me. It should be foreign to every Canadian. Now, does that mean that if someone shows up on your property uninvited, you get to shoot them? No, but it was never that. We never had that going on in our system. But we did have the idea that you could defend yourself, your family members, anyone who is at your home or on your property, and you could defend your property. That exists in Canadian law. We don't need to pass new laws. We need to enforce the right ones. And lawyer I was speaking with on this issue said, if premiers like Danielle Smith and Doug Ford want to make sure that we don't end up charging people who should not be charged, well, there's an easy thing to do. You change the guidance and the directives that you send out to your local police forces and your Crown prosecutors. That, they said, is the best thing that could happen.
So what you know of castle law then, Brian, is it that only if somebody is harming you inside your house, or is it the minute they break in that you have the right to
Well,
sort of
you
defend
always have the
yourself?
right to defend yourself. I mean, your response has to be reasonable and proportionate. If someone shows up and they're completely unarmed and they, come into your house and you shoot them, yeah, you're going to get charged. If someone shows up in your home, as did happen in Lindsay, Ontario, a little while ago, guy shows up with a crossbow in the middle of the night. I think it was 3 a.m., breaks into your house with a crossbow, and you defend yourself with a kitchen knife. Well, in my view, you shouldn't be charged.
And Brian, you had previously mentioned Ontario Premier Doug Ford. So I wanted to ask this a quick question here. So Premier Ford has threatened to take Crown Royal off the shelves in Ontario's government-run liquor stores. So why is he attacking a Canadian product made in Manitoba?
So, Crown Royal is made either in Gimli, Manitoba, or Valleyfield, Quebec, and it's a long-standing, wonderful Canadian business. 75% of all Crown Royals sold globally goes to the U.S. Now, there was a bottling shop. They don't produce it there, but they bottle it in Amherstburg, Ontario, which is near Windsor, and they have decided that this does not make logistical sense anymore. This is not a place that, or this is not a decision that is based on Donald Trump or the tariffs. This is based on logistics and supply chain. And I'm told the decision was made before Trump was even reelected last November. So they've decided they're going to eliminate this bottling plant. They're going to move some bottling to the US. Doug Ford has decided to go to war with Crown Royal and their parent company, Diageo. He's threatening to take Crown Royal off the shelves, which would harm Canadian jobs. He's also threatening to take every Diageo product off the shelves, which would include Guinness Beer, Tanqueray Gin, Captain Morgan Rum, Smirnoff Vodka. Like, this is one of the biggest liquor companies on the planet with some of the most popular brands. And he's saying, you cross me and I will use the power of our liquor board, which is both the retailer and the wholesaler, to block you. This is a ridiculous idea. Doug Ford needs to calm down.
Yeah, that's almost a Trump move where it's like, if you cross me, I will, do something
I-
against you.
And he's denouncing Trump, which has
Hmm.
nothing to do with this decision.
Right.
He's denouncing Trump and calling Trump a bully while threatening to do this.
Yes.
So, okay, you're saying Trump's a bully, but you're going to shut down an entire company because
Oh.
they crossed you politically?
Especially
That sounds like a bully move to me.
A Canadian company, especially, which we're
Yeah.
just so preaching by Canadian. And then he's doing this interesting. Oh, Brian, so great to have you on today. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.